Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Welcome back. At this point, our tradition is to go around and introduce ourselves. So let me begin. My name is Oswaldo.
Jason.
Joe. Jim. Christian.
My name is Henry.
Christian.
My name is Henry.
Greg. Isaac. My name is Gary. I'm Tom. I'm G. Jesse. Shop. Dennis.
Francesco.
My name is Michael.
Jay.
My name is Roy.
My name is Jerry.
Jeff.
I'm Clint. I'm Michael.
Matthew. Larry. Peter.
Rob. Jack.
Michael.
Kenan.
Young.
My name is Cass.
My name is David.
Paul.
Harley.
I'm Tim. Seamus.
I'm Richard.
My name is Joe.
I'm Hal.
David. Mike.
We got everybody? Yeah.
Almost.
Joe. There'll be a quiz after this.
And I'm
Yes.
Donadasa.
It's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Dhammachari Danadasa. I got it right? He's been practicing with the San Francisco Buddhist Center, right here, community since 1993 and was ordained in 2011. His current area of exploration is the cultivation of metta, universal loving kindness, as a response to all the hatred, discrimination, and bigotry of the world out there. In the Satipatthana Sutta, Satipatthana, the Buddha describes mindfulness as a direct path to liberation. What is liberation? What is mindfulness? And how does mindfulness lead to liberation? During the month of January, he's giving a series of 4 talks, and this is the second one. So, welcome.
Thank you, Oswaldo. Welcome to those who are here for who missed the talk last week, and welcome back for those of you who were here last week. Just wanted to give you an overview of the terrain we're going to cover and have covered this month. So I'll be with you for 4 Sundays for the entire month of January. So on January 8th last week, we spoke about the mind and the Sangha, briefly about the Sangha. I'll say more about that this week. And this week's focus will be upon the heart and the Dharma, which is the teachings of the Buddha. Next week, we'll be focusing upon the body and the Buddha. And then this final week, January 29th, I just called it Bringing It All Together. So just I'd like to recap very briefly the terrain we covered last week. This set of 3 on the left, mind, heart, and body, is in reference to the Satipatthana Sutta, which is a teaching of the Buddha. And in this sutta, he describes spheres of experience that are really important for us to pay attention to. So the mind, the heart, and the body. And on the right-hand side, this set of 3, the Sangha, the Buddha, and the Dharma are what are referred to as the 3 jewels of Buddhism. So last week, we focused on the mind, and I described this idea that our entire experience is mind-made, that we actually create our experience on our minds. And I shared with you that what are traditionally called the 5 hindrances, which are listed down here, of doubt, restlessness, sloth and torpor, desire for sense pleasure, and aversion and hatred, And I prefer to refer to these hindrances as the 5 habitual ways we respond to our experience that creates and binds us to suffering, which I prefer the translation of stress and anxiety. So, in these 5 hindrances, these two, this pair, sloth and torpor and restlessness, I find it really helpful to think of this pair in terms of our energies. It's energetic. This restlessness is the experience of being uncomfortable in our skin, not at ease, dis-ease. Even when things are going well, this sloth and torpor is just kind of, I like to think of this as the haze of ignorance, the fog of ignorance, where we just check out, we just numb out. No, I just can't bother. This pair, desire for sense pleasure, aversion and hatred, this I spoke about last week as the story of me. The story of me, it's all about me. This is what I want. Matter of fact, I must have this. If I don't get this, this here is what I don't want. I don't want. If I end up with these things, I'm going to be really bent out of shape, and I'm going to end up with this, stress and anxiety. So this pole here is really, it runs quite deep in terms of the story of me, of how we actually create our world of suffering. And all of this is made possible by the thing here in the middle called doubt. And doubt specifically is doubt in our own ability. Doubt, it's self-doubt. Doubt in our own ability to actually free ourselves from stress and anxiety. Completely liberate ourselves from stress and anxiety. Now this is quite a tall order. So also last week I shared with you one of my own personal metaphors of the castle, which is the way in which I create suffering for myself. So in grief, the castle is just simply a symbol for just keeping out the things we don't like and only allowing in the things that we do like. And ultimately, this strategy, it actually doesn't really work, because ultimately, there will be things that come into our castles that we don't like. There always will be. And if you don't believe that, well, death is coming. Old age is coming. Perhaps it's already here. So there will be things we don't like that come into our castles. And even when we get the things we like, everything is perfect. That pleasure of getting what we like, it just doesn't last. So this desire here, it's insatiable. So that's sort of like the underlying kind of, why does this not work? Okay? And then kind of ended up here, which is one of my favorite quotes from the Buddha. That which one brings to mind frequently becomes a tendency of the mind. Which is a quote from the Buddha. And this quote, it actually, there's a tremendous amount of depth associated with this quote. Because it's not just what we bring to mind. It's also referring to, at a much deeper level, how we view the world. And how we view the world, it shapes our entire experience. So the mind is incredibly habitual. Actually, our actions are very habitual. We are all fundamentally, we're creatures of habit. We kind of find the routines that work for us, and we just stick to them as best we can. And there's something very comfortable about a routine, because it's known, it's predictable. And the mind doesn't do so well in the face of unknown, the face of uncertainty and unpredictability. So in terms of the habitual tendencies of the mind, there will be certain patterns that the mind falls into, or certain patterns that the mind just becomes habituated to. And these patterns aren't just thoughts, but they're actually very deeply held views. So for example, I'm not lovable. There's something wrong with me. I'm a fraud. Nobody likes me. Things that really go right to the core, about our deepest sort of insecurities, our deepest fears about ourselves, physical appearance, I'm ugly, something like that. So these deeply held views, they affect how we experience the world. They're like spectacles which we look out of. And from these views, what arises is this tendency towards pattern matching. So if I hold this belief that I'm not lovable, when I look out upon the world, I'm going to find things that will affirm that belief. Yeah, it's very fascinating when you look closely at the mind. So where we ended up last week was with this idea that the mind is in fact very malleable. So we can have these very deeply ingrained beliefs, and we can actually begin to work with them creatively by conditioning the mind in a more positive way, by perfuming the mind in a more positive way, and by noticing that when we bring to mind more positive experiences, this will actually shift our experience. It'll brighten our moods. So last week there were a number of you who took up this offer or practice commitment to participate in a gratitude text group. So I know a handful of you did this, where the invitation was find a group of 3 or 4 to 5 people, exchange cell phone numbers, and just throughout the week, whenever you notice anything that brought you gratitude, just little simple pleasures, exchanges with others, just text the people in your group and just let them know. So I was wondering if anybody, is there anyone here who participated in that this week? Yeah? I wanted to know if a couple people would like to say something about their experience of doing this. Huh? Tom?
Yeah, it was really, it really did cultivate an appreciation throughout the day for more and more things. But what was also really interesting is, unlike sharing something on social media, on Facebook, or seeing something on Facebook, there was no inclination to hit the like button, to have an opinion, or to respond or to reply, like, oh, that's fantastic, or something like that. So it was really just a pure expression of sympathetic joy.
Thank you, Tom.
I found myself wanting to comment and having to hold back from commenting. And also, I sort of wanted to express ideas and opinions that I wanted to communicate to people. It wasn't necessarily gratitude. It was like, I'm really pissed off, are you going to the march? But I just tried to keep it simple and be grateful, and I had to just be careful that I didn't slide into other habits.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Well, ours is pretty low-key, but I did get a business referral from...
Did you feel grateful for that? Perhaps one more? Anybody else?
I'm going to give kind of a different view. When I was saying what I was grateful for and hearing what people were grateful for, I was thinking, oh, this is nice, this is pleasant. But then I was thinking, wow, this doesn't balance out the intensity of my struggles. It seemed like the struggles had a bigger negative feeling than the gratitude had. that's my lens, but that's how it felt to me.
Thank you. Remind me of your name again.
I'm David.
David. Thank you, David, for sharing that. I'll just simply use that as a segue into what I'd like to continue to talk about. So last week I wasn't tracking the time closely, so I ran out of time. So I wasn't able to say what I wanted to say about Sangha. So I'm going to do that now. So Sangha is one of the three jewels of Buddhism. And would you like to come in there? Huh? And it translates as spiritual community. And what is behind this gratitude texting group? One of the things that's behind this texting group is this experience of this idea that we are all in this together. Right? We're all in this together. So from a Buddhist point of view, this idea that we're separate selves, right? That I'm separate from you and you're separate from me, and therefore I got to get what I want, and I got to not get what I want, and you're either a friend or a foe. That this whole dynamic, from a Buddhist perspective, is actually a misunderstanding. Now, this way of being in the world, it runs incredibly deep. I will say it actually runs right into our DNA. It's occurring at a cellular level. Right? This, I'm here, I got to get what I want and not get what I want. This is fundamentally arises when we're first born. And we realize that I need food, clothing, and shelter. I need love. I need friendships. I need aesthetic beauty. When this arises, this need, this very fundamental need for actually just basic survival, this is where this I want and I don't want arises. It's basic survival. So this is actually our starting point. So it's fair enough to think that from this perspective of scarcity, of I need to get what I want. Now this path of transformation, it invites us to actually look at that and just ask ourselves this question of, well, how's that working out for you? How's that working out for you? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And the path of transformation from a Buddhist perspective is actually to take this self-cherishing, it's all about me. And it's not asking us to throw that out. What Buddhism is asking us to do is just to notice this tendency for self-cherishing and make an attempt to actually expand that self-cherishing outwards to include others. And the Sangha, the spiritual community, those of us here in this room, it's actually an ideal group of individuals to do this with. So within the Sangha, we all have, to some degree, some shared sense of values, some shared sense of aspiration. I mean, we're all here because at some level we want to transform our experience. We all share that together. And in this texting group, this gratitude texting group, it's actually an opportunity to just notice our kinship, our solidarity, the connection that we actually have with each other at a very, very fundamental level. So at this fundamental level, we all want to be happy. We all want to be free of suffering. So when we can connect with what I want this for me. I want to be happy. And then when we can actually see that same need in others, oh, I'm not the only one. You want to be happy. You want to be happy. You want to be free of suffering. That realization, it cultivates and creates this experience of solidarity, of connection, of community. And this here is a doorway into something much larger. Because once we begin to understand this, not just understand it with our heads, but actually feel it in our hearts, deeply in our hearts, then we can contemplate the possibility that this sense of kinship and solidarity can be expanded outwards to actually include all beings, even the ones we don't like. And again, that's a really, really tall order. So this is the value of Sangha. It is an opportunity to actually connect with each other more deeply. So these texting groups, it's also an opportunity for each of us to actually form deeper connections with each other. So I'd like to share with you an experience I had about 6 months ago. I went to Mission Dharma, which is down on 15th and Julian, just down the street here. It's IMS, it's run by Howie Kahn. And they meet in a Unitarian church, about 100-ish people. I went, meditation, short tea break, Howie gives a talk, everybody puts on their coats and leaves. And I appreciated the practice opportunity. And it also had the feeling for me of being alone together. This is the experience I get when I go to a cafe. Everybody's staring at their screens, and we're all alone together. I like going to cafes because rather than being alone at home, I can be alone together. It's very odd. It's actually kind of sad. Yeah. So, and I know that people within my community, they've been coming around for months, perhaps even years. Yet, for whatever reason, deeper connections may or may not have arisen. So in this gratitude texting group, it's actually an opportunity to move into connection with other people here in this room. So if you look around this room, every single person in this room represents a potential friend. The potentiality of friendship is here. It's all right here. So again, going back to this experience of isolation, it's actually something that I struggle with quite deeply. It is the castle which keeps people out. I really have to make an effort to be connected with people. And sometimes I just need an excuse to call people. So this gratitude texting group it's just a good excuse to be in connection with people. Yeah. Okay. So in terms of what David was saying, yeah, our minds are kind of a mess. They sure are. Oh boy. Okay. So now I'm going to move on to the heart. Another experience I can have when going to Buddhist lectures is the experience of receiving the Dharma from the neck up as a cognitive exercise or entertainment for the mind, entertainment for the brain, just an intellectual approach. And when we enter into the heart, this is when things get really, really interesting. So last week I spoke about the stories we tell, the story of me. And one distinction that the Satipatthana Sutta makes, this is the teaching of the Buddha, is it refers to being mindful of what's occurring internally and externally. Internally and externally. So in terms of the story of me, there's an internal story, whatever that may be, and there's also an external story. This is the Facebook effect. Look at me, look at how great my life is. I got my act together. So I know people who've told me this, that I'll quote someone, a friend of mine, said, if you really got to know me, you wouldn't like me. If you really got to know me, you would not like me. And this particular person, he's constantly hiding who he really is behind this persona of the jokester. He's always telling funny jokes, that sort of thing. And it's really hard to actually get to know him because of that. Because he's fearful that if he really shared himself with others, people just wouldn't like him. So now this is really interesting, getting into the heart. It's the heart of the matter. Is we can look at the stories we tell, internally and externally, and then we can also look at our actions. And our actions will tell a particular story as well. And more often than not, the stories our actions tell, are quite different than the stories we tell ourselves and the stories we tell other people. Our actions. So the stories that our actions tell are really being driven by the heart. So in Buddhism, they refer to the heart, or more specifically what's called Vedana, as the driver of all of this unfolding. So what this means is that we are all fundamentally motivated by getting pleasure and getting away from pain. That's all that means. Getting pleasure, getting away from pain. Now, the way out of this is to recognize that what causes us pain is actually this dynamic of grasping and clinging to what we want and pushing away what we don't want. So leading with the heart, it means actually turning towards our experience. So our natural, our habitual tendency with our experience is actually to block half of it out, the stuff we don't like, and to try and grab hold of this other part that we do like. And there's another part in there where we're just ambivalent. We just don't care. There's kind of a third category in there. So the path with the heart, the path leading with the heart, invites us to actually notice that this is happening and to just pause and actually try and expand our willingness to experience to include our entire range of experience. So this includes the stuff we don't like, the stuff we do like, and the stuff we're neutral about. This simple act of pausing is so incredibly important. So what I'd like to do now is actually lead us in a little guided meditation just to explore this idea of pausing in our imaginations. So what I'm going to invite us to do is I'm going to invite us, each of us, to bring to mind some situation in our lives that causes us stress. Perhaps it's someone in your life, your partner, a friend, your boss, a coworker, doesn't listen to you, you don't feel understood, whatever it may be. Doesn't really matter. So bring to mind, I'm going to invite us all to just bring to mind some situation in our lives that causes us stress. And then in our minds, we're actually going to imagine ourselves in that situation. And then I'm going to invite us all to just to tune into our bodies and just notice the effect that this has on our bodies. And actually, Eduardo, I'm sorry, Oswaldo, I was wondering if you could push the bell over towards me. Thank you, sir. So after we bring this to mind, then we're going to sit with what arises from that in terms of what arises in our minds, our hearts, and our bodies. And after that, I'm just going to invite us to just loosen up around that and just breathe some space into whatever this situation is. And just allow for the possibility of something else arising. It's very simple. Are there any questions about those instructions? Okay. So actually, this space is open. You're welcome to. No? You sure? Okay. So just close your eyes. Just take a few moments just to tune into your body. And tune into your heart. And your mind. And now, I'd like to invite you to bring to mind some situation in your life that causes you stress and anxiety. And see if you can recall some details about this situation. And just notice how this affects your mind, the thoughts running through your mind. And notice the emotions arising in your heart. And notice your physical sensations. Around your shoulders, your jaw and cheekbones, your forehead, your belly. Wherever it is that you tend to hold tension. Now, say to yourself, this is mine. This is me. This is my experience. And just notice how this feels. form the intention to just breathe some space into whatever this situation is. And just take a few deep breaths. Really fill your lungs with air. And on the out-breath, you can say to yourself, let go, let go, let go. Let it be, let it be. Bring your mind back to the present moment. And use the breathing body to anchor you here in this moment. Okay. Now we're going to do another guided meditation, which is about connection. Yeah, it's about connection. And if you notice these guided meditations, they're not dealing with the head. They're actually dealing with the heart. So there is a skill here of cultivating a resilient heart, a heart that is able to turn towards discomfort, stress and anxiety, and accept that as a part of our experience. But also to know that this is not our entire experience, although it can feel like that. Our experience is vast, the potential of our experience. It's incredible. So in this next guided meditation, we'll just be exploring the malleability of our minds, really through the process of imagination. So I invite you again to just make yourselves comfortable in your meditation postures, just to close your eyes. And just bring to mind where you are right now. And what you are doing right now. Of all the things that you could be doing right now, you chose to come here. Well done, well done. Now, notice the subtle sounds of your breathing body. And notice the subtle sounds of all the breathing bodies around you. And just notice how this feels to be breathing together Notice how all these breathing bodies support your breathing body, and how your breathing body supports everybody else. Now imagine a web of kindness that connects all of us here. An energetic field of kindness. Just imagine breathing this kindness into your body. Just imagine breathing with kindness. We are all in this together. So the last thing I'd like to talk about this morning is the experience of space. Space. And last week I spoke about states of concentration with regards to meditation. And I spoke about the deepening experience of concentration. And there are traditionally 8 of these states of concentration. And I spoke about the first 4 last week. And this week I'm going to touch upon 2 of them. 2 of these, the second 4. So the first 4 states of concentration, they do not have names. It's just the first dhyana, the second dhyana, the third dhyana, and the fourth dhyana. The next 4 actually have names. They're kind of cosmic, actually. So you've got what's called the sphere of infinite space. The next one is called the sphere of infinite consciousness. The next one is called the sphere of no thingness. And then the 8th one is called the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. What? Exactly. So this process of liberation, what is liberation? I'm not going to say anything about that, but I'm going to say something about the process of moving towards liberation. Is that it is a gradual process. And in terms of space, the sphere of infinite space, actually all of these 4 higher dhyanas, they're pointing at something that's deeply mysterious. They're pointing at our limitless potentiality. Okay, so we're going to set that aside. I'm just going to talk about the experience of space. So, infinite space, what's that mean? I have no idea. But I do have an experience of space. And I'm hoping that these last 2 meditation exercises, these guided meditations, actually give you a sense of space. So, when our minds are wrapped up in our stresses, our anxieties, and what I experience is this narrowing of the mind, a tension in the body, a clenching of the body, clenching of the heart, heat arising, things like that. Of Of course, in our bodies, we all hold tension in our bodies. Jaws, shoulders, bellies, very common areas, foreheads. So in terms of the experience of space, there is a contraction. We become focused upon what is causing us stress and anxiety. And that comes to the fore of our minds, and it's as if that's all we can see. And the second exercise, this experience of really breathing with each other. You may have experienced a sense of awareness of other people, sort of this connection with other people, and this outward sense of moving into deeper connection, an outward moving sense of kindness with others. So in this, there's an expansion of space. And this may have been accompanied by actually an opening of the heart, by physically sort of relaxing, a sense of relaxation, certainly a relaxing of the mind. So things can open up. So we can notice this in our experience, this experience of closing down, clenching, and opening up, physically, in our bodies, hearts, and minds. So, to wrap this up, what I'd like to invite people to do for this coming week, is I'll have 2 invitations as practice commitments. So the first invitation is if you would like to, join one of these gratitude texting groups, I'd invite you to do that. And the way we did it last week is just they'll be self-organized. So those of you who are interested in doing that, just sort of gather in this part of the room, and you can self-organize. The second practice commitment during the week is just to notice this experience of space within your bodies, within your hearts, and within your minds. And when you experience this clenching, this kind of narrowing down in a desire to run away from that experience or to escape that experience, I'd invite you to actually pause and just stay with that experience and just see what happens. So if you stay with this experience long enough, what will happen is it will change, because everything's impermanent. Now it can change in 2 ways. Right? It can get worse, which may happen, which means maybe it's too hot and you need to get out of the kitchen. I don't know, it's up to you. Or it can actually just shift. It can arise and something else can arise. One way to cultivate the arising of something more open and spacious is to actually just breathe into it. Actively do things to actually try and shift your experience. So it's great to get into your body. It's great to go out and exercise. Go for a walk. Take a cold shower, whatever you need to do to shift your mind, to move into something that's more open and spacious. So I'd like to invite you all to just work with this experience of space and see if there are ways in that you can find, sort of just open things up a bit. Just allow for the arising of something else. Okay, it is 11:53, so I think I'm going to conclude at this point. And thank you all for your kind attention. Tom.
Just last week when we formed the texting groups, you recommended groups of 5 to 6 people, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 to 6 people. You don't want your phone to blow up. So I wouldn't recommend groups of 20. Yeah.
I don't know that this comes to mind in response to what you were saying. I'm not sure how directly related it is, but so they get the idea that we want to be open and accepting of ourselves and of other people. So I've been looking around and I notice that yes, that's a world that I want to live in. I'm one of those people who would like that too. And at the same time, well-intending people, either through having misunderstood what's going on around them, or as a defense mechanism for some deep hurt that happened a long time ago, often take action which is either very destructive to them, very destructive to you, or very destructive to people that you care about. And I struggle to be with that peacefully and not feeling that I need to do something about it.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for raising that, and I will definitely address that next week or the week after. But I'll just give you a really quick answer to what you're pointing at. Is we can be motivated by fear, by anger, by anxiety. People will say this. It's like, well, actually, my anger, I think that's valuable because it motivates me. Like, I'm pissed off and I want this to change. It's not okay. And that's great to be motivated to activity, to action. And from a Buddhist perspective, it is also possible to be motivated by love. And it is far more sustainable to actually find motivation that is based upon love, rather than some other more neurotic tendency, whatever that may be. Yeah. So that's my very brief answer. But thank you for raising that. I'll definitely get into that either next week or the week after.
Thank you.
Just to clarify about your suggestions as to what to do in the next few minutes, are you suggesting that we either join the texting groups or work more individually on creating more spaciousness in stressful
It is. I would recommend doing both. And of course, it's ultimately up to you what you would like to do. Yeah, I think what's behind these suggestions is this idea of actually a practice month, where during the month of January, since I'll be here with you the entire month, we'll be together the entire month, is this idea of just putting a bit more energy into your practice, a bit more effort, a bit more intentionality, and just see what happens with that. Yeah. So these are just simply some suggestions, some ways into just getting to know our experience a bit more deeply.
Yes, so for those of us that were not here last week, we can interact in whatever way we wish with people around us.
That's right, yeah. Are there any other questions?
Well, we can use the next half hour, the social time, to accomplish connections and in a formal way. So, thank you very much for great talk, and looking forward to next week. So at this time, we usually ask for, first of all, one of the things I ought to say at this point is to remind people that our Sangha is sustained by our giving, and we'll be passing around Dharma bowl later on to sustain, help us sustain all of the things that we do as a Sangha. And I open this space for announcements. Any announcements? Yeah.
Yes, I have two announcements. The first one is we're going to have an all-day retreat here at the San Francisco Buddhist Center on March 25th between 9:30 and 5 with Heather Sunberg, who's been here before. And she's going to be talking about celebrating community, generosity, and gratitude. So very appropriate. And not until March. The day is free, but we will ask for Dana for the teacher at the end. There'll be a free lunch, vegetarian lunch offered. And there's flyers on there, so if you want to register, I think, I can't remember how many people can come, but take a look and register. Second one, Jennifer Barazan, who's been here many times, who teaches at CIIS and sings, is doing a big event at the Marin Veterans Memorial Auditorium on February 26th, and she's got some more shows added. It's called The Dazzling Huge-Hearted Cirque du Spirit. Join 100 performers and 2,000 friends. Included are Jack Cornfield, Joanna Macy, and there's cards on the coffee table for that.
All-star show. Any other announcements?
The host, who's the host?
We have a host.
Hello, everybody. I'm the host today. So cookies, fruits, and teas. So if you are drinking tea and you're using the cups, you can leave it in the dishwasher of that. And also for those who are new and for those who are not on the mailing list, for whatever reasons, you can sign up on the mailing list right outside here. And last thing is just at 12:30, some people gather in front and go for lunch together.
Yeah, Tom.
So this last week there was a really good interview with Marianne Williamson on the website Buddha at the Gas Pump, who does interviews with all sorts of spiritually awakening people. But in it she, and I highly recommend it, because in it she talked about bringing a spiritual perspective to activism in response to what's going on right now in our society. It was really enlightening and informative. It's linked on our Facebook page, and or you could just go to batgap.com. Stands for Batgap stands for Buddha at the Gas Pump.
I believe there's a big protest today at 1 p.m. at Civic Center.
Correct. It's at City Hall on the east side, where toward the side that the Asian Art Museum is.
Yeah, and I know Nancy Pelosi is involved, and I think Bernie Sanders is involved.
It's about the Affordable Care Act.
Mm-hmm. Right. So just if people are feeling like they want to direct their energy in some way, that would be a collective.
I've been out of town for a few weeks. What is the plan for the 20th? Is there like one?
There are two events that I know of. One is at noon, and it is at 2969 Mission at 26th Street. And then at 5 o'clock at UN Plaza, there's going to be another demonstration or event. So if you go to answer.org, they have all the information about all the protests going on in the city.
Also, there's the Women's March next Saturday, beginning at 3 o'clock, which will be women's marches all over the country, including the one in D.C.
And men are invited.
Yeah.
Jim, where's it beginning?
I don't know, but just Google it. It's
Use the Google.
Yes. I got for Christmas a book of essays by Mary Alder, and I know many of you are familiar with her poetry. This is called Upstream, and every paragraph is a gorgeous poem. I highly recommend it. It's great company.
Okay, lots of things coming up. Yeah.
I would like to participate in these events, but I'm overwhelmed. Did you say
Answer.org.
They have a list of everything that's going on
in the city. Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise I just get scattered all over trying to figure out.
I have the feeling it will be easy to find because I'm sure there's going to be an awful lot of people. I certainly will not be turning on the TV to watch the inaugural.
The Rockettes.
Okay, folks, I think we're ready for the dedication of merit. And thanks again for a great talk. By the power, oops, we got everybody. We have a big group today. By the power and truth of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all be free from sorrow and the causes of sorrow. May all never be separated from the sacred happiness which is without sorrow. And may all live in equanimity without too much attachment or too much aversion, believing in the equality of all that lives.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.